Welcome to the podcast where sustainability gets real. I'm Alan Stenson, I'm your host, and in each episode we uncover the people, ideas and actions driving the journey to net zero. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Emission Possible, the podcast where we discuss anything and everything to do with ESG, sustainability and the road to net zero. Today I am absolutely delighted to be joined by someone who's making a real impact in one of the fastest growing sustainability ecosystems in the world. Maz Fletcher is the founder of the Climate Consultancy and a real driving force behind one of the UAE's largest climate communities. Her work spans ESG strategy, capability building, education, and bringing people together around meaningful climate action. And she's doing all of this while not only building a business, but also raising the next generation at exactly the same time. So you've got a fair bit on your hands. Maz, I'm glad you were able to give us a little bit of time, and it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. That was a lovely intro. Pleasure to be here.
Fabulous. So we're going to dive straight into it. And I think what would be really nice is if maybe you could just give us a bit of a background in terms of your journey, what inspired the Climate Consultancy and your work in the UAE.
Sure, yeah. So I've been in the UAE for a decade, actually, which is far longer than I expected to stay. I originally moved out there having studied kind of economic development with a sustainable development lens. And I wanted to work in an emerging market where I felt like there was a lot of change happening, progressive change, challenges as well. And the Middle East certainly fit that spec. So I was really excited to monitor Deloitte in their kind of strategy unit and help governments develop policies that would, enable populations to grow and thrive. So I did that for a good 5-6 years, and then during that time I really enjoyed the kind of social impact focus, but also felt that there was a sustainability element which was lacking at the time, and wanted to focus more on that. And so I joined a boutique consultancy called Shared Planet for a few years, and really enjoyed kind of beyond the Middle East, also working on a variety of projects across Europe, and at the time very much an emerging topic as well. And then COP28 happened in the UAE, and amongst a couple of other things, it felt like it was a good time to launch my own company, and that's where the Climate Consultancy grew, and also the Climate Club. And so, for the past kind of 3 years, have been building that out. It's now kind of just referred to as TCC because we have these two streams. The community and the consultancy, and it's really driven out of wanting to, I realize that everything I'm passionate about really feeds into sustainability, health, wealth, nature, corporate responsibility. These all are kind of strands of sustainability, and sustainability is such a broad topic, but really finding my niche within that as well has been a journey, and something that I think is still evolving, really.
Oh, fabulous. No, absolutely. And I mean, I'm in my 20th year now, and it continues to evolve. So it literally won't stop, which is a good thing. It stops it from getting boring. That's for sure. So maybe give us an idea in terms of over in the UAE, like the scale and purpose of the community that you're building. What's that looking like now?
Yeah, so I think I'm right in claiming that we are the largest sustainability community in the UAE, if not the GCC. We have about 800 people in the group, and it's quite a dynamic group. It's a lot of people from different backgrounds, so people who are working in the sector, people who want to be working in the sector, people who are interested in moving to the UAE and want to discover what the sustainability world looks like there, people who are just doing it as a hobby, students. We have all kinds in the group, and it's really a place to kind of network and to grow your skills. We host weekly even events, monthly meetups, and then skills boosters. Every month we have a topic. So this month we're looking at climate adaptation, and we have someone talking about GIS mapping, blue carbon. We have a conscious cocktail event once a quarter, which is really our kind of signature networking event. And we've done a variety of different things, and it's really just about kind of bringing sustainability to life. And for me, there was a gap. I felt I was going to a lot of conferences, watching a lot of panels, but not really engaging in the conversation and finding people where there was like a dynamic dialogue that could happen, beyond the panels that were on stage. So I wanted to create a space where people could ask questions about anything really, and it could be more of a two-way conversation, because sometimes, with panels, it's more of like almost like an ego thing, right? You're on stage, you have your moment, but there's no two-way dialogue with the people who are watching you. So we wanted to create a space for that, basically.
Yeah, I love that, because it's providing value then, isn't it? Because people will have something to take away from that, and the opportunity to fully understand it, as opposed to just be presented it and think, oh, okay, and then you've got an idea or maybe a perspective, but haven't really had the opportunity to delve into any detail. So that's great, and it's good to hear, and it's something that obviously needs to be happening, and I'm so pleased that it's becoming so successful, because there's a clear appetite, I think, and a thirst for knowledge, and it sounds like you're facilitating exactly the environment for that to happen. So that's excellent. How about in terms of the state and future of ESG in the GCC? What would you say the current ESG landscape is in the UAE and Saudi and the wider GCC?
Yeah, I think, we're going through a bit of a shift globally, right, with ESG. There's obviously the US's influence, and that having a negative effect, I think, on the US and a lot of Europe as well. The GCC is definitely not perfect, right? These are oil-generating economies, oil-dependent economies. But there have been clear indications that it's a commitment. The reason I went there in the first place was to help these countries with economic diversification and to move away from oil, with the realization that their economies are not going to be able to last on that revenue alone. And so there has been this very committed endeavor to build new economies that are moving away from oil. And there's been a lot of investment, certainly, in kind of renewable energy, and especially in the UAE, there's commitment to sustainability for the last 2 years, being the years of sustainability. So a clear signal from the government that this is a high priority. Of course, there are, there's always shifts in things, and we'll see what the next kind of couple of years brings. AI is now obviously the trendy thing to talk about, and that kind of comes in some ways at odds with sustainability, right? But from what I've heard, there have been some kind of some good indications again that some of the data centers that are being built with a kind of green mindset as well. So looking at renewable energy sources and kind of LEED platinum certifications and things. So hopefully we can pursue these things with sustainability still at the heart of it.
I totally agree, and I think it's always a good example of looking at what's actually happening. Our online activity is increasing so rapidly, and the energy demand, water consumption, land grab, everything that goes from a negative perspective with that is only increasing, and it's now getting to the point where the emissions associated with our online activities on par with the aviation industry. And we always used to think, flying's bad, it must, it's bad for the environment, sort of thing, and it just puts it into perspective. But the difference between those two sectors is our online activity is significantly increasing, whereas aviation impact is decreasing. So it's an interesting topic, but it's one that, as you quite rightly point out, there's a lot happening now to make sure that we're aware of that. The fact that we're having these conversations in the first place means that we're aware of what that impact is, and steps are already being taken. So natural cooling and all sorts of different aspects in terms of how to decrease the impact of data centers and rely less on fossil fuel. And it's going in the right direction. Obviously, it's not going as fast as we would all like, but it's certainly going in the right direction. So that's great to see. In terms of the UAE, I mean, I know regulation is coming in. A new legislation came in May in the region. Obviously, the legacy of COP28. I was there. We were, that was a great moment of conversation. Vision 2030 as well. Those initiatives, how are they driving corporate action in your view?
So I think it's similar to Europe in the sense that they're a strong lever, but they only really kind of impact the top companies, the top emitters. Yeah. So that's positive in the sense that there should be a trickle down, that these companies will now have to start looking at their supply chain, at their scope 3, and trying to understand, and make changes there. And so smaller companies will be impacted. They will have to start reporting and and kind of feeding into these bigger companies. But to be honest, I think there could be stronger regulatory kind of direction as well. The UAE works in a very carrot versus stick way, so they really encourage and incentivize, but they're not particularly strict when it comes to enforcing stricter regulatory measures. So given that dynamic, you do kind of leave it down to market dynamics, and as it depends on the economy, right? When people are feeling positive about things, I think they have a desire to spend on things like ESG, but when things are a bit tighter, it's not the highest priority. So I would like to see stronger regulation for sure, but it's a bit
Yeah, good. I mean, it's. I mean, it was very encouraging to see it come in the first place back in May. And you're absolutely right. It's primarily for large organisations, which, to be fair, is exactly how it works everywhere else when it came out. And it, as you said, it trickles down. And I think the biggest driver globally, beyond legislation, is that priority and that pressure being applied to the supply chains, because most businesses out there, I mean, not all, but the vast majority of businesses are seeing the largest portion of their footprint is completely outside of their control because it sits in the supply chain. So that's why these companies are being asked all these questions that they never were before, because it was, you've got one customer who's saying, well, hang on a minute, how am I going to get to net zero when 80+% of my footprint's in the supply chain? Unless they do it for me, I'm not going to get there. So that's why the questions are coming, and that's the kind of shift that we need, because the priority will be not just on price, but its impact. If I work with you, if I commission your service or I buy your product, is that helping or hindering my journey to net zero? And that's what's going to shape the way we move. And I think, in some ways, that kind of helps take us away from that compliance-driven ESG approach to a value-driven transformation, where if we adopt sustainability practices and we provide insight, that everyone who buys from us is going to benefit from the actions that we're taking, and I think that's what helps to really accelerate. Would you say that's what you're seeing happening over there at the moment?
Yeah, we just hosted a course last week, a masterclass on sustainable procurement, and that is a kind of key driver as well, right? If you set the right policies, these larger companies have massive purchasing power, and they can really help shape market dynamics around this. So if those companies, embed in their procurement policies that they require, this, or at least start with strongly encourage the supply chain to have these policies in place, then that can then prompt, changes further down the value chain, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the right approach, because collectively we're going to make it happen far more successfully and ultimately faster as well. But it's it needs to work for everyone. If you're asking your suppliers to give you information, you need to facilitate the ability for them to give it to you in the format that you need it and the right kind of information that you need. But it also means that if you're doing that, they are benefiting from the fact that they're doing that in the first place, because they're cementing that relationship. They're probably going to get even more business from you because they're giving you what you need, and they're making it easier for you to work with them in the first place. So it makes sense all round. So it's I think naturally that's certainly the way it's going to go. What is your view on how some of the international frameworks are shaping regional approaches? CSRD and ISSB and that sort of thing. I mean, what's your view on that at the moment?
I should have read up, because I think there was something that came out about the omnibus today, and I haven't read it yet. I quickly saw
it. Oh, really? Oh, wow.
I think it was about kind of scaling back even further. So particularly around the CSDDD and the human rights due diligence requirements, which I'm disappointed to see. I think anyone working in this field is disappointed to see the rollbacks of Omnibus, because that regulation is really what we need to drive things forward. But it exists, and the clients I've been speaking with have been prompted to take action because of it, even the kind of hypothetical introduction of it. So it shows that it's necessary. And there are so many factors at play, right? And I understand the pushback from kind of SMEs, and that they don't always have the tools. I have to say that's why I was very proud, very pleased to see the neutral carbon zones offering. Not to plug you, but
it's okay. I don't mind.
Very affordable and great tool for smaller companies, right? And that's
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, it's been a lot of work and a lot of development, but the idea is to remove as many barriers to entry as possible. And if we can't have a blanket approach, because it's not appropriate for every type of business. So a micro business or even a small to medium sized SME, a standard or a process or an approach that a large corporate would have is not really necessarily the right step for an SME to take anyway. So it needs to work. I mean, if you make it as accessible as possible and as easy as possible as well, but also appropriate to each individual type of organization, then they're going to have far more success in implementing it because it's right for them. But it's a tricky one. And again, that's probably one of the reasons why legislation is only going at the pace that it is, because you can't just say, right, everyone needs to report on their footprint, and it has to include this and this. And suddenly some people say, well, I don't even have that in my business, or I don't have that the ability, resources, or time, or whatever it may be. Particularly if you're asking them to do something that's perhaps not even appropriate for them to do in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, I think when people think about ESG, they think, I need to have a whole team on that. I need to have a separate person at least. When actually, what we're discovering, speaking to a lot more companies, is that it can be something that is actually embedded within your existing team. It's about upskilling the people that are already doing, the finances, the supply chain. And then maybe you need some kind of fractional support, which is what we offer. We recognise that, there's a lot of cost that goes involved, especially in the UAE, in hiring people, right? Sponsoring visas, paying for medical care. And so one way of kind of still having that capacity, but not needing to incur a lot of costs, is to have a kind of fractional support or consultant to help you as you approach kind of reporting deadlines and things. And then tools like neutral carbon zone, to do your own internal data collection and calculations and things. And then it's not quite as scary as you kind of first think.
Yeah, exactly. And I love the fact that you're opening up the conversation and hosting these sessions so that people start to understand that and realize that, because I think you're absolutely right. I think there's a lot of fear and misinformation around what has to happen and the process that you have to follow, and sometimes that can just overwhelm businesses so that they then don't do anything because they're either worried about getting it wrong or thinking, it's way too much, or I can't do this, or is it even right for me, sort of thing. So it's good that you're opening up the conversation and helping people to really understand just how accessible it can be, which is good. In terms of, I suppose, moving from strategy to structure, what are you seeing with leading GCC companies in terms of structuring their ESG internally? Are they having to go through governance teams, KPIs? What is the sort of go-to at the moment in that region?
So, I mean, a lot of companies still don't have ESG teams. As I said, that's fine. You don't necessarily need to. What we're seeing are a lot more hybrid roles. So, HR teams who are taking on sustainability roles. Sustainability can sit in many different places. Ideally, it sits in an executive level strategy position, but it doesn't have to. It can also sit within finance. It can also sit with an HR person. It can sit with a marketing person. But you have to understand that these people will come at it from a very particular angle. So if you are putting it in your kind of communications department, then it is going to come across probably as more of a greenwashing endeavor, right? Because it's going to be much more about communicating to the public, every little green thing that you do, as opposed to really setting environmental KPIs that are ambitious and that are tracked, and that's not something that a communications or marketing person is going to be able to do. So I think that companies need to really think about where they're going to be placing that capability, either as a hybrid role within your organization already, or having somebody come in from externally and doing it. But it can really dictate the success of your endeavors.
Are you seeing more success in-house or outsourcing, or does it just depend on the type of company, or how's that looking?
It depends on the company. What I'm seeing mainly as a driver is the company kind of IPOing or going on the stock market, because that's investors looking for it. That's a real drive.
Yeah.
If investors are looking for it, then there needs to be transparency. There needs to be some kind of support, either internal or external, to help you set up your environmental KPIs and monitor them and report back and the likes. So that's what we found as being a big driver.
Yeah, well, it's so true, because now it's seen as a risk aspect. If you're looking at investing into a business or buying a business, part of that due diligence is the ESG policies and processes in place, and what risks are we going to see if they're not? So it's a real change, I think, in mindset. Which is, I guess, making a real difference. Do you have any sort of examples of what you've seen with cultural change or leadership buy-in making a real difference?
For sure, 100%. If there is leadership buy-in, it makes it a much, much easier task. We've worked with clients from both sides. One, where they've got an ESG person, but there's no support from the executive leadership, and one where they've not really got any ESG person, but they've got the executive leadership buy-in, and it's like night and day, because at the end of the day, we did all of this work with the ESG team only for it to get to leadership and then to go, no, I don't really want to put any of this out here. I don't really want to communicate any of this publicly or do anything. We just want this one-off kind of snapshot that we can send to our investors, and that's it. Versus, no, this is we want to go above and beyond what is required of us. We want to really measure and continue to improve and recognize where the cost savings could be, as you say, and the risk can be, and all these things that are valuable information to our business. So that's very clear. The success has to be is really dictated from the buy-in from the top.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's universal as well. It's when I think it's easy to see now when a business is just doing something for a single purpose. A shiny report is all lovely, but if it just sits in a drawer and doesn't even get looked at until somebody else asks for it 2 years later, it's not doing anything. And I think that's a real difference when you can see businesses are literally embracing it and making it part of how they operate. Then ultimately that's always going to be more successful, because it's partly the why of why they do what they do, and that's always going to be more powerful. But so I suppose if we moved on to what you think is happening over in the UAE in terms of the next generation of change makers, in your view, what do we need to do in terms of ESG and climate literacy? Should this be something that we're literally teaching in schools and universities, or should it be standalone courses that people can access? What do you think we should be doing there? Because there's clearly a skills gap, and what do you think are the ways that we can close that?
Yeah, I mean, I really do feel a big gap is around the kind of climate literacy, like what is actually happening to our planet and why. Because a lot of what happens, I teach in a university in Dubai in a kind of business course, Sustainability, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship is the course I teach. And so we come at it from a very business perspective, which is great. And there's a lot of, these are the things companies should be doing and why, and business ethics and, kind of your core corporate sustainability, corporate social responsibility type stuff. But there's still a kind of gap from my students around like, but why are we doing this? And so then you have to kind of really go back to the basics around, what is actually happening. And it's been a long time since I was in school, but I also don't remember having that kind of education. I know there's been a lot of effort in the UAE to actually green some of the curriculum. Recently, they even started that they were introducing like ocean literacy as well.
Wow.
So I think that's pretty great that they're now really educating kids from a young age about these things. But yeah, there is in the current generation, I'd say a bit of a disconnect around the facts, what's actually happening, and then what it means for businesses. So
yeah, fabulous. That's so encouraging to hear, because there is such a need to plug that gap. And education's great, theory's great, but giving people practical skills that they can then take straight into the working world is going to really help them, position them to be a real value to whoever's going to be employing them. But it's also going to be making sure that we are going in the right direction. I think that's incredibly important, and it's great to hear that it's the wider ESG aspect, not just counting carbon. It's the whole aspect.
Yeah, and I think that the students that I'm meeting, there's also there's one thing knowing about these topics, and as you say, like you're doing business, really knowing what developing a sustainable business looks like, being able to think about that. We want more entrepreneurs in the world, and we definitely want more green entrepreneurs. But yeah, also kind of developing critical thinking skills. I always emphasize on critical thinking skills, systems thinking, future literacy. The ability to think about what's happening in the future and what that means for everyone, for your business, for your society. These are things that really require a bit of an imagination and a bit of, you need to stop and think. You need to move away from your AI and your phone and actually just think about things. And
lateral thinking as well. Exactly. We're not just, there isn't just a single straightforward approach. It's what can we do differently? It's not about restricting or stopping things from happening. It's about understanding what the impact of those things is, and what can we do about reducing it. And the idea of increasing efficiency and productivity and making things better and more successful whilst reducing the impact of that means that everybody is winning. And I know we've spoken about this before, but the whole triple bottom line approach to sustainability, because sustainability is so wide reaching. You could be the greenest company in the world, but if you're not making money, then that's not sustainable. And if you're making lots of money, but you're doing that in an environmentally or socially unacceptable way, that's also not sustainable. So we have to understand and be aware of the impact that we have on the planet, the people around us, people who work for us, with us, and the value that we bring. And it takes that wider lateral approach, I think.
Yeah. So when a lot of people, ask me, how do I get into sustainability? I'm always like, well, stop focusing on getting into sustainability. Like, what is it that you're doing now? How can you make that more green? Whatever it is you're doing, there's an angle to it that can be about, doing it better, as you said. And then just developing those skills I was talking about, like even communication skills, like how can you articulate in your company the value of ESG in doing that? Because that's one of the biggest obstacles we face as consultants in this field, right? Is actually communicating to the organization, people outside of the ESG team, that this is of importance.
Yeah, I completely agree. So never mind all that. Let's talk about probably what's even more important. How on earth have you founded and grown a mission-led business whilst raising a family at exactly the same time? How has that been for you?
It's only been the last 8 months or so. It's been quite a long 8 months. Even before that, I had my dog, who's my first baby, obviously. Quite a troubled soul he is. But yeah, no, it's been a real ride. I had her. My husband likes to tell this story. I had a pitch the day that I was induced, which I took from my hospital bed.
Wow!
I was very much working mum, and then I'm very lucky that I work for myself and I have flexibility and I have support. I'll start by saying that I'm by no means, superwoman doing everything for myself. I have a very supportive husband. My mum came to stay for a month. My dad came to stay for 2 weeks. I have a full-time live-in nanny, which is a game changer. So anyone, I will just declare that up front. And even being back in the UK for a week, it's very difficult having to care for her, especially now as an 8-month-old who just wants to walk and eat everything all the time. But I've been really privileged, I think, to be able to continue doing both. And I have a fantastic team as well who supported and can carry when I have off days, So that's all about it, right? We just all pick up for each other.
So important, that's lovely. I mean, I guess if nothing else, it gives you, motherhood giving you lessons in resilience, in time management, in purpose. It puts it all into perspective as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. It's you think about her future, in so many respects. I mean, the world's looking pretty bleak in some respects, a lot of the time, and it does make you think, what kind of problems is she going to be tackling in 20-30 years time? Like, she has a similar drive to have a kind of purpose-driven career, but what are those challenges going to be? It's going to be a very different looking world.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's it like for women in sustainability? Is this something that's a challenge? Is this something that is encouraging to see the development of, or how's that working at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, sustainability does seem to attract a lot of women, actually. I mean, I think it kind of, women like to work on these kind of, they have a softer heart, as my nanny likes to say, softer heart. And so it does attract a lot of women, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily easy, right? It's as we talked about, a difficult field. It's not always high on a lot of companies' agendas and therefore budgets and things. So you really have to have a lot of commitment and support to continue working in this field. But I mean, I've worked in my start of my career was working in Saudi Arabia as a woman before there were even female bathrooms. So I'm quite used to working in industries where consulting itself is a very male-dominated industry as well. So, for me, that was a bigger challenge, I think, kind of being in environments. Saudi Arabia is doing much better now, but there were no females working when I was there. There were no female bathrooms. There was a very kind of male-centric leadership team at my consulting firm. So I think actually now having this, there's a lot about women dropping out of the workforce recently because of the need to go back to work physically and being in the office and working for, working independently. You have that flexibility to kind of be home a bit more. And I work from home, and then that allows me to go out and see my daughter in the middle of the day. So, there are pros and cons, and I enjoy having that flexibility.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's really good. So in terms of the UAE's climate community, what was the sort of how and why you built the community? I know it's been a real sort of mission to grow it and to improve the engagement. But what was the thought process of what went behind that?
I think as I was saying, like going to a lot of events and really feeling like there was no soul to them. There was just a lot of jargon, a lot of people on panels, same people, same discussions, just leaving a little bit empty and wanting a deeper connection with people. And so I literally just started it as coffee club meetups. So we just meet up in a coffee shop, get a speaker, but it's not like a one-way conversation. It's dynamic. You can ask. It's a conversation basically. So
how long ago would this have been?
About 3 years ago.
Oh wow! So it was really, really small to start with.
Yeah, it was literally just me adding a bunch of people to WhatsApp who I knew thought would be interested. And now we have, I constantly have about 100 people to let into the group at a time. So it's quite an active job. Wow. I message everyone personally, welcome them. We have an online hub as well where people can go and find our resources. That takes a lot to keep updating. None of this is profit generating. We're all completely pro bono that we're doing it. And in a way it's like helped, get our name out there, which has been great, and build our network and things. But really it's about also, as you say, feeling that there was a gap educationally, culturally, all these things, and so wanting to fill that gap.
And what sort of impact or partnerships has it generated?
Great ones, like with I mean, I get reached out random things, like today I was invited to an event to launch like a community app, or I get quite, people who want to move to the region. I'll have chats with them, and then maybe they come, maybe they get a job, and you never know where these things kind of take you. What else have we had? I mean, I've done like events with like a local mushroom farm, for example. We did like grow your own mushrooms. Conscious cocktails I did with Boca, the restaurant in DIST that's got a completely sustainable menu, but now we shifted to, I host it at my house now. So it's just like meeting people. I mean, so many great connections from so many different backgrounds.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I mean, it's bringing, like you said, bringing individuals together, but startups, corporates, all together in one ecosystem where everyone can share experience. I think it's so important as well to have a true real world understanding of not just the successes but the challenges that people face and businesses face, because if you're sharing the ups and the downs, that's going to be relatable to other people, and other people are going to get ideas around how can they benefit from that, and what would we do in that same scenario. So I think that's great. I think it's exactly the type of thing that should be happening. And like you said earlier, is that it enables people to really understand rather than just be presented to. I think that goes a long way, but it doesn't go enough. It doesn't go far enough. And I think having the ability to really get into some detail and talk about it is really important. So what's next for the community? What the future plans, expansion, international collaborations? What's next?
Yeah, I would really love to expand. We have a lot of people from different countries, actually. Like, there's a lot of Canadians moving to the GCC at the moment. So, Canada, we have a lot of Indians, we have Pakistanis, we have Brits. So I'd love to grow it here. I mean, actually, this trip, I've just been thinking about how do I really reconnect here, because it's been, let's say, 10 years in the Middle East. But I'd love to stay more in touch with the UK market and maybe grow the club here. But yeah, ultimately, our tagline is collective action for the climate. And so, as you say, it's about bringing different people together and kind of doing that, collective action. So I'm open to exploring multiple partnerships and, to see where things go, I guess.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. So in terms of any advice you would give to aspiring sustainability leaders and entrepreneurs, what could you divulge?
I think really spend some time figuring out what exactly it is you want to do. Like, what are you passionate about, and what's going to be your path there? Because, as we said, not hiring sustainability strategists or CSOs these days they're not roles that are particularly growing, I'd say. So people are looking for niche skills. So kind of figuring out what it is that's going to be your niche. What is the skill sets that you have? We do this coaching course, which I really enjoy giving. It's about kind of helping people figure out what skill sets they have, what it is they're interested in, kind of the ikigai, what can they make money from, and what's their mission, and then developing, a career plan to achieve that. And that involves, like, we put them in contact with people we think can help them get jobs, or help them with their CV and putting that together. So I would say figure out what your niche will be. I think the path to sustainability is not linear. It's very much a squiggly career. So, new grads these days, it's very difficult to get a job as it is. I would say, figure out what you want to do, and then realize that it's not going to be your dream job from day one. It's going to take a number of steps to get there, and be okay with kind of learning, because sustainability is this broad topic, right? So you can have experience in one industry that could really help you in another. So being open, I guess. This is general career advice I give to anyone, I think, these days as well, and figure out how AI and technology is going to help you as well, because for our advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. So where can anyone who's listening or watching this, where can they get more information? How can they get involved in the climate consultancy or the community itself?
You can go to our website, theclimateconsultancy.com. So there's information about kind of our business there, and then also the community. There's a link to the WhatsApp group and to the Circle platform, where we have all of our webinars and courses and everything on there as well. Or just feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. I'm happy to connect.
Excellent. We'll make sure your handle is and the links are in the notes. But Maz, it's an absolute pleasure. I know we could chat away for hours, I'm sure. But yeah, thank you so much for being on the show. It's brilliant to have your insights, as I think it's a real reminder of what's possible when sustainability and community and purpose all come together. So it's encouraging as well for everyone listening, I think, because it's hopefully will spark ideas and hopefully we can use that to build some more momentum, and other people can take that away into their own organisations, which is great. As always, everyone, stay curious, stay committed, and I will see you on the next episode of Emission Possible.
Thanks for listening to Emission Possible. If today's episode sparked an idea or presented a challenge, please reach out and let us know. Subscribe, share, and stay tuned, because net zero is absolutely possible.